everybody and welcome. Thank you so much for purchasing Mama Rush's gluten-free Italian herb sandwich bread mix. What we're going to do today is I'm going to walk you through how to prepare this both in the bread maker and in the oven. They're both super easy. I personally, when the kids were little, I use a bread maker a ton. So if you have the ability to purchase a bread maker or you already have one, it's a really super easy way and it's more time effective, I think, especially if you're a very busy person. So we're going to start out with the bread maker instructions. Okay, so you're going to start out with the mix. So what I do first, and this is really important as we go through this, is I'm just going to pour the mix into a mixing bowl, whatever you want to do. Because what you're going to do is there's a yeast packet that comes with the mix, okay? So it's separate. So you're going to want to open this all up, and it's really important, and this goes for both the bread maker as well as if you're doing this in the oven. I'm going to pour the yeast packet in, and I just use a whisk. You can use a spoon, you can use a fork. You just want to make sure it's very evenly distributed. It's really important when making the bread. So we're just going to whisk the yeast in there like that. Okay. The second part for the bread maker, okay, we're just going to add all of our wet ingredients, okay? And the whole purpose of this is get them incorporated well before you even put it in the bread maker. I just found that it does so much better and it bakes so much better when we've already incorporated all this stuff and not just letting the bread maker do it, okay? So we've got 3 eggs, okay? We've got a cup of warm water, so kind of room temperature water. We've got our 1/4 cup of olive oil, and then we have our honey. Now you can use honey or you can use agave, or my recommendations. If you were a former customer of the bakery, if you like the honey sorghum, I used honey. That's what I called them at the bakery. If you are more of a fan of the millet sandwich bread, you're gonna use agave. It's gonna give you the closer taste to that. So I kind of added everything in here. I'm just gonna use the same whisk that I did in my dry, okay? Put it in here. We're just gonna whisk it up a little bit. Just want to get those ingredients incorporated together. Okay. So I've already plugged in my bread machine, all that stuff. As far as settings, what we recommend on the settings for the bread machine is that you're going to want to do either a gluten-free setting. Mine is old. I actually got that, we got it as a wedding gift. So it doesn't have a gluten-free setting. But the newer ones have gluten-free setting, or you're going to want to do a basic rapid on there. It's just different times. It has a different length of time as far as how long the bread's supposed to rise, so you'll have a better result. What we're going to do is I just pulled my pan out of my bread maker. You're just going to pour all the liquid in here. Just make sure you get everything so you don't have any honey on the bottom or agave on the bottom. Get everything in there. Just going to put that on the bottom. Okay, I'm going to set that aside. And I mean, it's super simple. Now all you're going to do is you are going to take all the dry mix and just put it on top of the liquid. Okay? I just spread it out so it's even. All right? All right, and then we're just going to pop it into the bread maker. And you hit it on. Okay? So one thing I will caution you in regards to the bread maker. So once because it's going to warm up, most of them warm up, and then it'll start to do some mixing. Once it's mixed a little bit, you're going to want to go back either with a spatula or a spoon or something and scrape down the sides a little bit. And that's before it starts rising, because just the nature of the bread maker, some of the dry mix is going to get kind of stuck to the sides, so that way it all gets real incorporated and you don't have a bunch on the outside of the bread. So that's really it as far as the directions for the bread maker. So once it's done, it'll probably take about 3 hours. Usually that's how long the length of time is for a bread maker, maybe a little bit longer. You're going to pull it out, pop it out. You're going to cool it on a wire rack. So one thing I do recommend, in my house, we eat a loaf of bread in like 4 days. So I don't need to freeze anything, okay? But if you have just one person eating it, or not a lot of people, or you don't eat a lot of bread, my recommendation is that you slice it and then you freeze it how you want to pull it out, okay? Because there are no preservatives in any of our products. So it will mold because it is real bread and it's all made of natural ingredients. I think that's it as far as a bread maker. We're gonna move on to how to do the oven. Hi, we're back. We're gonna go over how to do the Italian herb bread in the oven. So the first thing you're gonna wanna do is you're gonna preheat your oven to 350. And the other thing that we're gonna do is we're going to create a proofing cabinet for this. For the proofing cabinet, what we do is just take a cup of, I just use a coffee cup. You're gonna use your microwave. I fill it full of water. You're gonna put it in your microwave 3 to 4 minutes. You want it steamy in there, okay? So it's around 80 degrees. So you're gonna go ahead and do that. So pretend my microwave's going. So we're creating our proofing cabinet right now as we're getting ready to mix everything up. I've already put nonstick spray inside of my baking pan. And now we are going to go through how to do the oven bread. So again, if you're watching the first portion of this video, which we did for the bread maker, you have a yeast packet that comes in with this. Okay, you don't need to mix that up in a bowl because we're going to put it all in a great big bowl and mix it all together. We really do that in the bread maker to make sure that it's already really, really well incorporated. So what we're going to do first is we're going to take all of our wet ingredients again. We're going to put them in the mixing bowl. So we have 3 eggs. We have a 1/4 cup of olive oil is what I use. A cup of room temperature water. And I like a stand mixer. Really with the bread, because the dough is, the batter is going to be so thick, you really want to use a stand mixer if you got it, because a hand mixer is going to be a little bit more challenging. And again, I'm going to add my honey. I prefer the honey, but you again can use honey or you can use the agave. And again, if you were a former customer of the actual bakery, if you prefer the honey sorghum, use honey. If you prefer the millet, use the agave as your sweetener, okay? All the directions are on the back of your bag, so you can read those a little bit more in depth. So we're gonna go ahead and we're just gonna mix this up just like 30 seconds, not very long. Okay, then what you're gonna do, I'm just gonna pour the entire contents, your bread mix, into your bowl. Gonna add your yeast packet. One thing that's really, really important is we're gonna make sure we get everything really well incorporated. So make sure you're mixing this at least 2 minutes on medium high, okay? I just like to make sure everything is really well incorporated so we get the best result from our bread making, okay? So we're gonna mix this up for about 2 minutes before we put it into our pan. Okay, so we're done mixing. And as you can tell, it is a really thick batter. Really thick batter, okay? And that's how that consistency should be. I always use, and I already have my my 9x5x4. A tall pan is a lot better for gluten-free breads because it gives it more structure, because you don't have as much structure as you have in normal bread making. So I think that is the best way to go. All we're gonna do is, and then also scooping it out, it's always easier to use a spoon than a spatula to get all this out because it is pretty thick. You got all those awesome spices in there. So next up, you can either take your spoon, you can take a spatula, you can use your hands, whatever you want to do, but you just want to get this all evened out in the pan. Okay, a lot of times I use my hands, I'll wet them in the sink, and you're just going to pat it down. You just want it smooth because it makes for a prettier bread, so you don't have as many lumps on it when you get the finished result. Now as a finishing touch, you don't have to do this, it's not included in the packet, but if you've got it at home, it just aesthetically makes it look pretty on the top of your bread. I always, at the bakery, I used to, when we were baking fresh there, just take a little bit of rosemary, sprinkle it on top, okay? And add a little coarse sea salt, okay? So you can kind of visually see it on top. Not a lot, just a little bit. Now on the bread making machine, you can't do that when you initially put it into the bread maker, okay? So if you want to wait till it has done its final rising portion of it, then you can go in, open up the door, and add that on there. But if you do it immediately, it'll just, at the very beginning, it'll just get incorporated into the bread, so you won't have that top finishing part. So now we've got it in our bread pan. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to put it in our proofer that we've created in our microwave. Now it depends on the time of year. In the summer, it could take 15 to 20 minutes for it to rise. You want it to leave it in there to rise about an inch or an inch and a half from the top. You want to leave about that much space because once you first start baking it, it's going to rise some more. So my suggestion is usually it takes anywhere from 30 to 40 minutes to rise, but again, the weather, all sorts of things go into how fast and easily bread rises. So I would probably start your timer. So just time it for 20 minutes, go back and check on it, and then do it in increments of 10 minutes. Because once it gets going, it can rise pretty fast on you. You do not want to overproof this bread because it'll end up collapsing on you. So just kind of watch it. And again, I would start at 20 minutes. The max it should take is like 40 minutes. But again, it can vary by where you live and what the temperature is and what the weather is doing that day. So once it's proofed, okay, you're going to pull it out. And we're going to put it in the oven. So we've already preheated our oven to 350. We're going to cook it for 50 minutes. Okay, so just take it out of your microwave, put it into your oven, spin this in a rack. About 50 minutes is what it'll need to bake. And then your end result is actually what we have here. Okay, so in the spirit of saving time, I'm not going through all those other processes to show you, but it is amazing. I'll slice them up here for you. And again, if it's only a couple of you in the household, go ahead and pre-slice it. Freeze it. It does awesome to bring it back out. So you can see it's nice and soft, it's moist, it's not going to crumble on you. It'll be the best tasting gluten-free bread you've ever had. Again, thanks again for joining us and for purchasing our gluten-free Italian herb bread. Thanks. Bye-bye.